The grand majority of people are taught to put all of their energy and effort into the wedding. But how many of you are actually putting that same level of energy and effort into the marriage?
From day one, you're likely in some way, shape, or form, regardless of your gender, being groomed to be a byproduct of the systems at play so that you are exploited, so that other people benefit from you caring more about that lovely day of marriage than caring about your actual overall well-being and health.
Hey everybody, it's Bianca.
Welcome back, Evolvers. It's Amelia. Tonight, whenever you're listening to this, we are going to have a hot take on the dark side of marriage being hidden from you post-wedding depression. And here's why. Now, quick disclaimer. Bianca and I, for those of you who haven't noticed, are two well-educated women who like to take a no BS, very candid, kind of in your face approach sometimes around taboo topics in a way that helps you to evolve, help you to overcome some of the things that we see on the behind the scenes of many people's lives, weighing them down so that you don't have to go through the pain and suffering that other people do. But if you happen to already be in that boat, we honor you, we salute you, we recognize that what we're going to talk about today can be heavy and most likely hasn't been brought into your awareness, and there's a plethora of reasons as to why. So hang with us in this conversation. We are wanting to bring to the table something that we are seeing increasing in considerably concerning numbers, which is a post-wedding depression. Specifically, where this episode got inspired is the increasing number of clients that I'm seeing. Bianca, I'm curious to see your take on this, but the considerably increasing number of clients that we are getting at Evolve, of women who are experiencing what I am going to refer as post-wedding depression. So Bianca, I want to get us started by asking you if you've ever heard of what's called a marriage premium.
A what?
A marriage premium.
What the hell is that?
A marriage penalty. Yeah. It's two words that most people haven't heard. So your honest and candid expression, I ask that on the spot because I want people to know that this stuff is being hidden and it is not talked about enough from my perspective. And this, where I'm coming from, comes from an honest place of concern. So the marriage premium is essentially this concept, and it is actually well documented. And if anyone's interested in this, I strongly encourage them to start to do their own research. I'll provide some links to some studies that are well documented at this point. But at the end of the day, what the marriage premium is essentially, after male gender, men are married, they have about an 8.6 marriage premium, i.e. improvement in many aspects of their life as a result of being married and seen as married, as opposed to women, which in contrast, this is a 3.8% quote unquote premium. Oftentimes, women experience what's called and referred to as a marriage penalty, which essentially means that women are less off, they're in a worse position in a plethora of areas than men are post-marriage. And this is something that, as someone who really cares about like love and actually protecting what's real and what is true, I come from a standpoint around what happens after marriage, right? Because I see women coming in with post-marriage depression, where what is happening is they are feeling lost, they are feeling untethered, they are literally going through a depressive episode. They have manic experiences of huge bouts of anxiety, of what does my life even mean? What do I do now? And then this kind of wash into subservient roles within their life, because this is all they've been conditioned to plan for, as opposed to a long, healthy, fulfilling life with goals, with desires that are their own. And so we can break down a couple of these components if you haven't heard about this. where the statistics shows, and this is again well documented, that post-marriage men actually experience higher increases in their income, increase higher levels of productivity, increase yeah, it's wild. They have better health and well-being after marriage. When you look at the statistics, when it comes to women, it is quite literally the opposite. And that is what I'm saying in our practice. And that is where my concern from this conversation, the dark side about marriage that no one wants you to know, is what I want to talk about. And so is it all doom and gloom? No. But is it important to talk about? Absolutely.
Ever tell anybody that. Nobody would want anybody to know that. Mm-hmm. And what you see on social media and what you see from all of these people who are pretending like their marriages are all fine and dandy, what you will never see is the reality of what is going on in that marriage behind closed doors when nobody is looking. I know a couple, Amelia, mm-hmm. 2 couples. One of them, guess how much they spent on their wedding? I just want you to guess.
$125,000.
$250,000 on their wedding. I know another couple, at least $500,000 was spent on their wedding. Ask me how wonderful their marriages are.
Respectable, equal partnership, mutually reciprocal, fulfilling, responsive to needs, and a level 10 out of 10. Able to repair any ruptures. I would guess probably on the 1 or 2 end, if a 10 out of 10 is like all the good stuff.
No, not even remotely close to any of that.
Yeah.
The reason I was laughing a little bit when you were talking, why are women taught? And this isn't a conversation to be about men versus women. This is about the reality of what has happened in the world to human beings. Why are women convinced of a narrative that their wedding is going to be the best day of their life? I can't wait to walk you down the aisle. It's going to be the best day of your life, blah, 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 blah. Because women had no rights. We were bartered with goats and fucking chickens. And men got a dowry, so they literally got paid off to buy women, to birth their children and take care of them. And that is still the narrative that's happening today. That's why you get tax benefits for being married, because we're still pushing that narrative. And it's not about, we're not anti-love. It is actually the exact opposite. Amelia has the best relationship to exist. I'm dead certain of it.
Thank you.
I am dead certain of it. Nobody has a better relationship than Alan and Amelia.
Thank you.
Why? They're not married.
Really hard for that.
They're not married. They're going to be eventually. Do you think they give a absolute shit about their wedding? No.
Yeah.
Why?
No, not at all.
Because they care about the relationship. They care about the relationship, not a piece of paper. We are not saying don't get excited about being married. Be excited about the marriage, not the wedding. The wedding industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry for a reason. We are being brainwashed into believing that a wedding is the best day of your life. What other purpose do you have in your life then? Of course people are depressed afterwards. You basically went to the moon and then it's like, now what?
Yeah. What do we do? And that's what I'm seeing in our practice. And I just disclaimer, the maybe that I was saying there is because so much of my life I have very much been on the other end of what happens. You know, when I was younger, I remember being like kind of sickened by how much conditioning there was. Like people would be like, oh, you guys would look so, like just like the conditioning that's around women and having that be the most important day of your life. And all the conditioning around your relationship is the most important thing, and no consideration for like goals and like other things like communal pursuits and endeavors impacts like the mission, the life mission that you're going to have, the unique impact in the world, the people that you're going to serve, the things that you're going to do, whatever. And being in a relationship that is like purposefully not doing that, it is wild, because what we're purposefully doing is investing in our actual relationship. And so it's not about me, and it's not about the men versus women. I do want to educate people around the marriage premium and the marriage penalty, because that is something that the statistics show. But I really want to elevate a couple of voices that I've heard from clients, and not just elevate their voices and what their experience is, but also my observation on their actual biometrical health. Meaning, the women that I've seen get married in, let's say, the last 3 years, Bianca, as soon as a woman knows and has a ring on her finger, every single waking second, consciousness, money, what she does and doesn't do, is now in this very strict idea of what that day requires her to be. From that day that there's an engagement or that there's this expression, everything she, like from what she puts in her body to what she doesn't, to how she, just everything wraps around that one day. And what I see is that women are more stressed out and are having severe health implications, not just physical health, because they're so stressed out that in chronic states of stress, they're actually now, their immune system starts to drop. They end up becoming ill and more predisposed to illnesses as a result. But then that one day, that is the quote unquote best day of their life. The big concern is like, yes, the before and the after, because the after is where the depression really does kick in. And the voices that I hear is like, what happens if I don't fit into that size 4 dress? Or what happens if that person doesn't show up? There's so much of a heavy focus on perfection and of the little nuanced things that are so insignificant in the grand scheme of life, that afterwards, the despair and the meaninglessness that comes into the mental health component of women's life post marriage, and men too. Like, there are definitely some men too that I can say experience this, but more women than ever. The health implications of this are actually and genuinely concerning me. And I'm not seeing that trend go down. I'm seeing that trend, if anything, go up as a result of the comparisons on social media with the photos. And it's getting outrageous in terms of the, let me try to outdo this person, to the extent where I have a client even, and I'll share this in closing, but I have a client who's not even married, not even in a relationship, and who, in seeing someone who she works with get a ring on her finger, sent her into a manic episode of despair and depression because of the comparison that took over her mindset, and that sent her into a spiral of she'll never find her person. And that is one of many people that I am seeing and hearing having experiences like that, just by seeing someone post a photo, just by seeing someone share in a group chat what their life milestones are. And so it's not just about the dark side of marriage that no one's sharing you. This is a actually bigger conversation around comparison, a bigger conversation about how when you see one person having or doing something that you think is awesome and you have been so brainwashed to condition is the most meaningful thing in life, how that impacts you and how you let it impact you, and what levels of health are actually on the downslide as a result of that. That's the bigger conversation here from my perspective, because as a woman, like, it is really, really not okay that there is not more people talking about this. And unless you literally pine your way through and find it, even then, Bianca, women are not like, you know what? Yeah, I actually took off like, if I were to like actually understand the stats, like 4 years of my life just in the 9 months of wedding planning that I did. But it's totally fine because I look cute in my dress. It's like, why are we not caring about our health more? Why are women allowing other women to not care about their health more? Why are men encouraging women to have that cake and eat it too at the expense of their long-term health, at the expense of their mental health? Cool, you had your $200,000 wedding, but we don't care about the mental health depression that comes afterwards. We don't care that there's a marriage penalty that women are experiencing. And what happens when all of a sudden that continues on? Like, I'll continue to go on a whole diatribe around this because my heart hurts talking about it. And what are we doing about it? That's the question that I want to have everyone that's listening and joining us. Like, what are you doing about it? How, if you plan on getting married, if you want to one day find your person, how are you navigating this differently? Because do not be so naive to think that you are going to be different. You only become a statistic of a different sample set if you plan and if you're intentional about your choices, because you hear this episode differently and you let it seep in and you say, I'm not going to be a part of that statistic, the post-wedding depression, the marriage penalty, the marriage premium stuff. Like, I don't want to be a part of that stat. I want to be a part of the group of people who take it mindfully, who are intentional, who take more pride and care at manicuring their mental health, their emotional states, their stress states, more over than they actually care about what type of invitations their card stock are made of. That's what I hope to inspire in this episode.
One of the hardest lessons I've ever had to learn in my life, and it's a lesson that I'm still learning, is how much I was taught to care about things that don't matter. And the impact that had on my life, on my mental health, and on my well-being. And this is one of them. This is one of them. You are literally harming your life by trying to keep up with the Kardashians and the Joneses and whoever the hell your social comparison set is, based on a false narrative that we have all been brainwashed into, that is what matters, because it keeps us distracted from the realities of what is happening in the world. And I say this as someone who was so deep in that, it's not even funny. And as someone who was able to get out of it, and I'm still fighting every day to get out of it because it is so easy to slip back into it. We are wasting this precious life that we all have on stupid stuff that doesn't matter. Your wedding should not take more. It should not be more important than the actual marriage. Invest a quarter of the time, energy, and money that you put into the wedding into actually investing in your marriage and making it better, and your life will be extraordinary. I'm sure you could recite the data, Amelia. There is so much data out there that shows that having an actually good marriage increases your lifespan, increases your life capacity, increases your health, increases your well-being. How many people do the we? Not enough.
Not enough. The
Why?
statistics that outweigh these post-wedding depression, as opposed to the statistics that actually proactively work on their relationship, as a preventative measure, are wildly disproportionate.
People only go to couples therapy when their marriage is on the brink of divorce because it got so bad someone finally cheated. Like, why not invest, or something way worse? Yeah. Why not invest in making it better? That's what's actually going to make you have a good life. That's what's actually going to help you. I don't talk about this often because honestly, I do this for me, and I've always had an idea that people are going to think negatively of me about this, but I think this is one of the biggest positives and one of the smartest decisions I have ever made. I get coaching and or therapy 6 times a week. meaning Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sometimes it's double, I am spending thousands of dollars a month on therapy and on coaching. I could easily put that money into buying a new car. I could easily put that money into buying a house. The amount of money I've spent on coaching this year alone, I could put a down payment on a house. Why would someone do that? Why would someone do that? Why would someone who actually cares about their life do that? Because I actually care about my life. Because I want an actually magnificent life. I want an actually magnificent marriage. I want to actually be a magnificent person. Put your time, energy, and money into the things that matter. We are spending so much time on nonsense, and it's why so many of us are miserable and unfulfilled.
In closing, you know what's fascinating about that, Bianca? Way to toot the horn there, because that is truly extraordinary. And what's you're able to cash in on every single day is the feedback loop of getting to know yourself at a deeper level, which then helps to get you a deeper understanding, more accurate mental map of how you interact with the world. And so you're cashing in on all of those awarenesses literally every single day, as opposed to someone who literally spends all their time, energy, and money focused on that one day of their life, and then end up having that midlife crisis, or in their 50s as they're going through menopause or menopause, whatever, they end up having to reflect and say, why don't my kids actually love me? Like, why do my kids avoid me? Like, why do X, Y, Z? And why? You ask those questions at the tail end of your life. The conversations to try to have with some of these individuals about like, what do you like? What do you like? What do you care about? What are some of your strengths? What are some of your weaknesses? How can we design a meaningful career? How can we design a meaningful life worth living? One that you're not going to regret when you're old and wrinkly and no one, no one's around that you thought would be. Those conversations are pining, because there's such a big mirror point on how much time, energy, and money was wasted on the little things that turns out were seemingly not that big of a deal. I'm not invalidating how big these moments are for individuals. What we're not saying is that you're wrong to think or feel or act the way in which you have. What we're inviting you to in this conversation is to be mindful of how there are dark sides to what you have been culturally, societally, gender-wise conditioned to believe and give all of your time, energy, and attention to, at the expense of so many other more meaningful and important pursuits. So with that being said, we invite you to take a consideration for the research, for the evidence that is in the show notes. Comment on YouTube what pissed you off in this episode, what resonated with you. If it touched a heartstring, we want to hear about it, because we know the women, the men that are in the shadows after all of the fancy and rah-rah kind of settles down. We know how dark that is. We are behind the scenes with people, with families, with individual souls. And no one's talking about this. No one is talking about this. And it's having severe implications, because how people are coping in that is a whole nother conversation. And where the trend lines are headed, we're genuinely concerned. So out of love, out of concern, out of compassion for where you are in your journey, what you're going through, let us know how this episode resonated with you, what you've experienced. Maybe you have a horror story of what it was like after your wedding and coming face to face with all those shadow selves versions of you. We want to hear about that, because we don't want you suffering in silence when it comes to this. And we sure as hell don't want you never being able to talk about the dark side when you show those awesome photos, but then you conveniently forgot how you got literally a cancer diagnosis conveniently 2 years after, or this happened, and someone told you that it wasn't connected. Everything that you do and don't do is connected. There's a rhyme to the reason of what you're going through right now, and we don't want you to be a part of the statistic that is on the marriage penalty end, if you will. So my episode suggestion, if this episode resonated with you, is episode 412, being an adult doesn't mean you've grown. Bianca?
Woof. 411, why most people fail long term and how to win. Amelia and I are deeply passionate about these topics because we see so many people every single day who are suffering. People just like you, suffering unnecessarily every single day because of things like this. And it is our sole mission on this earth. Amelia's first, and I got, thankfully I met her and now I get to be a part of it, to help every single one of you to actually have an extraordinary life on your terms. We're fired up. It's because we care. We hope
So
this
deeply
resonated with you, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.